We asked what you wanted to see more of, and one of the top answers was we want to see more Renaissance Festival related projects. And that's what we're going to be doing today. In fact, we're going to be making a horn frog and not the animal. That's coming up. Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Reese. This is Weaver Leather Supply. Today, we're going to be making a horn frog. Now, I know if you're in Texas or in the Southwest, you're probably picturing this thing right here. But that's the wrong kind of horn and the wrong kind of frog. That's not what we're making. This is a drinking horn. This is something that's really common at the Renaissance festivals, and if you do any kind of LARPing or anything like that. I'm not sure if it's like authentically from the medieval period or not. I would think so. But it looks in period. It's fun to carry. It's fun to drink out of. But the challenge is, how do you sit this thing down? I mean, it's not like you can just stand it up somewhere and carry in this thing. I mean, it's 18 inches long? It can be a challenge to carry around easily. Well, that's what we're going to address today. We're going to make a horn frog, which is this guy right here. It hooks to your belt, and that drops down in there like that. And now we've got a way to carry it. So if you decide that you want to do this project with us, we've got a free pattern for you. The link's in the description. It's going to fit most medium-sized drinking horns, the ones that are about this size. Now, they can get much bigger and much smaller, so if you need to, you can always scale the pattern up or scale it down, but it's going to fit most medium-sized drinking horns. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is simply cut out the project. Now, I did this off camera to save us a little time in video so that we could shorten it up just a little bit and really focus on the parts that you may or may not need help with. But the two parts that we're going to be cutting out is this little bat wing shaped piece and the strap along the back. Now, if you would like to see a video on best practices for cutting out patterns, let me know. I'd be open to doing something like that if there's enough people that are interested in seeing that. After that, we're going to need to bevel the edges of both pieces of leather. I'm going to be beveling it before I start tooling because I want the leather to be dry. The edge bevel just bites in easier when the leather has some firmness and rigidity to it. Just make sure that you get the front and the back. Once we've done that, now it's time to add in the tooling window. And to do that, we're going to grab our wing dividers. Now, we're not going to be doing any major in-depth tooling on this project, but we are going to be adding some texture to it, so it's not just simple, clean leather. To do that, I'm going to grab my wing dividers and set them to 1/4 inch. Then I'm going to mark a line all the way around the main piece of leather for the project. It's that little bat wing shaped piece. So if you've never used a pair of wing dividers before, I'll give you a few tips. Number one, put your index finger on the tine that's leaving the mark. The more pressure you put on it, the darker of a mark you're going to make. Number two, the flatter the angle, the softer the mark. The more upright, the more of a score or a scratch you're going to make on the leather. And number three, keep your eye on the tine that's following the edge, not on the one that's making the mark. That way you can correct faster if you start to drift a little bit. Anytime we have a tooling window, we're going to want to cut it in with a swivel knife, and then we're going to want to bevel it. And to do that, I'm going to be using the Berry King swivel knife from Weaver, and I'm using a steep bevel, the Master Tool version from Weaver. I'll put a link to both of those in the description below so that you can get yours if you want one. So here's a quick tip on beveling. Notice how I'm using my fingers to create a base. My ring finger and my pinky are always in contact with the leather. This gives me a much more stable platform and a more consistent bevel. So now we get to the part where you can deviate from the video a little bit and kind of customize and personalize the project to fit your style. Now I'm going to be using this textured backgrounder for that kind of open area that we have there. That'd be a great spot for like a Celtic knot or maybe some, spots or something like that. There's all kinds of different ways that you can customize this. You can put a border stamp around that tooling window. All kinds of different ways you can personalize this to you. And I would love to hear what you're thinking about doing with it. So leave those comments in the comments section below. I'd love to hear what you're thinking about doing with this project and kind of making it your own, which is really what it's all about. Let's go ahead and punch our holes for our grommets, even though we're not putting them in quite yet. Then after that, we can dye it. Now, the holes for the grommets, they're very clearly marked on the pattern, so no need to measure anything. But after that, we can go ahead and start dyeing. Now, this is a really small area, so I'm just gonna dye it with a dauber instead of dip dye. This is something that we're going to be handling a lot. Our hand's going to be bumping into it as we pull in the horn in and out. So we want to make sure that the edges are finished really nicely. To do that, we're going to want to make sure we burnish the edges and get that really nice finish on it. The leather that I'm working with is really tightly knitted together, so it took very little to get that great edge on it. But if your leather needs more of an in-depth process to really get that slick edge on it, we just released a video not long ago on how to get perfect edges. I'll make sure we've got a link in the description to that video. Because the edges on this leather are so nice, I'm just going to use a little bit of gum trag and a slicker to burnish the edges. Remember, it's about friction, not pressure. You don't need to push hard, just create heat. Now it's time to add the grommets. And to do that, I'm going to be using the Little Wonder from Weaver Leather Supply. Now, this is a tool that I could do an entire video on. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know in the comment section. I definitely would be up for doing a video on this thing. It's amazing. So as you can see, setting grommets with the Little Wonder is so much easier. I can do it by hand, but because I made so many mistakes and I messed up so many grommets back when I was first learning, I still hate setting grommets by hand. This thing makes it so much easier. Now it's time to punch those holes for the strap and the frog so that we can join the two together. So for the rivets, I'm going to be using what's called Insta rivets. They're very similar to a double cap. The difference is they're flat on the back. And that's important because this is our horn frog. If I'm dropping this thing down in there and there's a rivet right here that goes all the way through, if it's a double cap, then that's going to scratch that horn as it goes in and out. With it being flat, like an Insta rivet is, then it's not going to scratch it as it goes in and out. Just make sure you've got the flat part of the rivet to the inside of the frog. And with that, all that's left is just to lace it up. So grab your favorite lacing, create an X pattern, and tie it off with a square knot. So that's going to do it for this video. I will see you in the next one. In the meantime, go make something amazing.